While other Ethereum founders were leaving or scaling back their involvement, Joseph Lubin was constructing something far more ambitious than any single blockchain project. The former hedge fund quant-turned-crypto entrepreneur had quietly incorporated ConsenSys in Brooklyn just months after Ethereum's 2015 launch. Unlike his departing co-founders who built alternative chains or exited crypto altogether, Lubin bet everything on Ethereum's ecosystem, but with a corporate structure that initially baffled the decentralized purists. ConsenSys began as a sprawling network of Ethereum-related ventures under one umbrella. The original model was unconventional, part software foundry, part venture studio, part consultancy. Lubin funded teams building everything from developer tools to enterprise blockchain solutions, operating what he called a mesh structure, rather than traditional hierarchies. At its peak in 2018, ConsenSys had over 1,200 employees across 28 countries working on more than 50 projects. This rapid expansion was fueled by Lubin's personal wealth from early Ethereum holdings. Reports suggest he invested over $100 million of his own funds during the first 3 years. The contradictions were apparent from the start. Here was a company preaching decentralization while employing hundreds and making top-down strategic decisions. Lubin's Wall Street background showed in ConsenSys's early focus on financial applications, including partnerships with banks that made some Ethereum purists uncomfortable. Critics noted the irony of former Goldman Sachs executives running workshops about dismantling traditional finance. Yet this pragmatism attracted serious institutional interest that eluded more ideologically rigid crypto projects. Major validation came in 2018 when ConsenSys secured investments from legacy finance giants. JP Morgan partnered with ConsenSys to develop Quorum, its enterprise blockchain platform. MasterCard collaborated on cross-border payment solutions. Microsoft integrated ConsenSys Infura blockchain API into its Azure cloud services. These deals demonstrated that Lubin's strategy of bridging crypto and conventional finance worked, even if it meant dancing with the very institutions Ethereum was supposed to disrupt. Financial disclosures revealed the delicate balance ConsenSys maintained. Revenue streams included traditional consulting services for Fortune 500 companies alongside open-source software development. Some projects like MetaMask and Infura became critical infrastructure for Ethereum's decentralized apps, while others, like Uport and Grid, plus targeted specific enterprise use cases. Critics argued this mixed model created conflicts. Could ConsenSys truly support permissionless innovation while taking checks from centralized corporations? The contradictions peaked during crypto winters. When Ether's price crashed in 2018, ConsenSys underwent multiple restructures, laying off staff while spinning out certain projects as independent startups. Former employees described the company constantly renegotiating its identity, one day presenting as a radical decentralization advocate, the next as a compliant enterprise vendor. Somehow, Lubin kept expanding his influence even as competitors faltered. By 2020, ConsenSys controlled key pieces of Ethereum's infrastructure, including the most widely used wallet, MetaMask, and node service, Infura. These acquisitions of core ecosystem components raised eyebrows. If decentralized networks relied on centralized companies like ConsenSys, wasn't that defeating the purpose? Ethereum developers debated whether Infura's dominance created a single point of failure. When MetaMask's browser extension temporarily stopped working in 2020, large portions of the Ethereum ecosystem went down with it, a stark reminder of how much power ConsenSys wielded. Lubin defended these tensions as necessary growing pains. In interviews, he argued decentralization was an end state, not something achievable overnight. ConsenSys's role, he claimed, was to bootstrap critical infrastructure until true decentralization could emerge. The company released open-source alternatives to its proprietary tools and supported community projects, but always maintained its own market-leading versions alongside them. This balancing act became more precarious as regulators took interest. ConsenSys established a dedicated policy division to lobby governments worldwide, while assuring crypto users it wouldn't compromise on decentralization. Some saw this as straddling incompatible worlds, Regulators demanded accountability structures antithetical to blockchain's trustless ideals. Yet Lubin's approach kept ConsenSys legally operational in jurisdictions where competitors faced crackdowns. Financial reports showed the strategy paying off. ConsenSys raised $715 million in 2022 at a $7 billion valuation, with investments from HSBC and Microsoft. MetaMask surpassed 30 million monthly users, while Infura handled over 430 billion requests, making ConsenSys simultaneously Ethereum's most successful startup and biggest centralization risk. The company's venture arm held equity in over 150 crypto startups, creating an ecosystem-wide influence no other Ethereum founder could match. What began as Lubin's passion project now resembled a corporate empire spanning venture capital, infrastructure, and lobbying. Unlike Vitalik Buterin's focus on protocol research or Gavin Wood's technical purity pursuits, Lubin built an adaptable enterprise that thrived in multiple environments, whether crypto bull markets or regulatory crackdowns. This success came at a cost to Ethereum's original ethos. DeFi purists complained ConsenSys prioritized enterprise clients over community needs. Developers resented reliance on Infura's centralized nodes. Yet, alternatives struggled to match ConsenSys's reliability and funding, creating a paradox where decentralization required depending on centralized providers to succeed. As Ethereum matured, ConsenSys became both its greatest ambassador and most controversial element. Lubin proved blockchain could work with traditional institutions, but left unanswered whether doing so fundamentally changed what Ethereum was meant to be. The empire he built stood as a monument to Ethereum's real-world impact, and a reminder of how far the project had drifted from some founders' revolutionary ideals. This tension would only grow as Ethereum itself faced the technical limitations threatening its dominance. While Lubin focused on enterprise adoption, the network's scaling crisis was becoming impossible to ignore, setting the stage for another defining Ethereum moment.